Join two sisters who explore the couples that fandoms adore. We write their stories in the night, in the glow of computer light. Eyes connect, clothing flies. In our head, canon love never dies. Sizzles that leave us pining. In deep forums, we are mining. For this journey, better strap in, because we all know that shit happens.
Welcome to the podcast that explores the couples fans can't stop dreaming about from the pop culture you love. Because when it comes to your favorite one-woman show, ship happens.
I'm Rachel.
And I'm Emily.
She likes nerd culture.
And she likes making podcasts, so we thought we'd join forces to make a podcast about popular online ships.
And before we get into our official ship of the week, this is where we talk about the ships that we are into right now. And I actually have one this week. So
that's good, because I don't.
Oh, okay.
I was going to go historic with it, but yeah, okay, so what's your ship?
Okay, so I'm really hot on the times, and I am reading a book that was popular in 2020 called The House on the Cerulean Sea. Did I get that right?
Wow, yeah.
Yes. So I am, I think, I don't know, maybe 33% of the way through, according to Audible, and I am shipping Linus and Arthur Parnassus pretty hard right now. I'm liking this little tension that goes on between the main character, the social worker, and the headmaster of the orphanage for magical children that he is currently investigating.
Yeah, they're cute. I read that book in 2020 around the time it came out, and when I really needed the good feelings it brings. So I read it at a very right time for it. I have it. I need to reread it because the sequel just came out. And I need to read the sequel.
Well, now I'm all primed for the sequel. It's been on my list for a long time. So
the sequel is, I think, more Arthur's perspective.
Okay.
But, yeah, I like that author. He writes a lot of romance stuff. It's good.
I like that it's a gay couple. So that's always fun too. It's not a woman who's fixing the sad, broken man. It's another man. So I can get behind that.
Who's also kind of sad and broken.
Well, okay, so I am calling
or is it Arthur?
now.
Which one's broken?
Linus seems like he is the quintessential man who needs a manic pixie dream girl to come in and bring color to his life. And Arthur could be that in a very literal way, because I believe he is a phoenix. I believe he is the phoenix that he talked about in passing. And all of a sudden there's these weird orange glows. I'm like, scorch marks in the basement. I think I'm piecing this together. And from what I've read, the book itself is pretty neat, which I like stories that are neat and not so squirmy, wormy. So I feel like it's all going to come together. I'm kind of anticipating a twist of some kind, and I hope it's not just the fact that he's the Phoenix or a Phoenix, because I pretty much feel confident that I put that together.
It's all going to work out. It's going to be very, very sweet. I read a review of this book, I think around the time it came out, and the review was like, just because of the moment we were in, they're like, I really needed this book to be like, it's better if we all just work together. Wouldn't it be great if we all were just nice to each other? And it's like it's not like groundbreaking territory, but it was like what you needed in that moment of the summer of 2020.
It's still pretty charming. You know, if I had to have a follow-up novel, I would almost just want to hear about Chauncey specifically, who is the translucent squid child who wants to be a bellhop more than anything. I'm like, yeah, he's my favorite character. But to your point, the prejudiced, bad, translucent squid character who wants to be a bellhop named Chauncey, it's very millennial core. So that's also, it's like hitting that random absurdness that our generation is very much known for.
I just remember that first chapter being so strong about the very important people or upper management, capital U, capital
upper
M.
management.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first insert is really good where he's interviewing a student who can make things levitate, and just the way they introduce the concept of magical children is pretty spot on. Just casually mentioning somebody's cast on their tail and just all this stuff. I was like, oh, this is charming. I get why people like this. But that's my ship. One is kind of straight-laced, button-up government worker drone, and the other one is a phoenix, apparently, based on Emily's reaction when I spouted my theory.
Well, yeah, come on. I don't think it was that much of a surprise.
No, okay.
I don't remember. I do remember that he's the phoenix, but I don't remember a whole lot about that.
He is a magical man himself, and he's tall and lanky, and that's my type.
Oh, and middle-aged. They're all middle-aged.
Which is also
I like
nice.
that.
They're
I like a romance.
Yeah. I mean, the teenagers are the children.
Yeah, but I like a little romance with some adults.
But that's just my ship of the week. The real big ship that we were talking about is, when I think about it, probably my top ship, alongside Aragorn and Éowyn, because this is the one that has stirred the most emotions in me as an adult person and not just a little not closeted, little
closeted nerd.
I was gonna say horse girl, because closet came to mind because I kept the pictures of them together in my closet. So my closet shrine of Aragorn and Éowyn. But no, this one is a big one. I remember the pining and just like the tension from it in my chest, and that is the couple that has no name. Any name. They're simply known as Fleabag and Hot Priest.
Right, yes. Talk about Fleabag. So this was definitely a moment. Yeah, Hot Priest definitely had a lot of think pieces, a lot of articles. I was browsing Vulture today, looking up all the old articles about Fleabag. But yeah, no real couple name. No, neither of them have actual names to begin with. But
characters do in that show.
Yeah, couldn't find anything. So yeah, what do we think? FleaPriest?
FleaPriest? I don't like that as much.
Priestbag.
Priestbag. I think that's better.
What was that? I titled the document Fleeced. I don't know.
Which made me think of like a flea the bug, or somebody who's like a fleeist. They're fleeing. I'm a fleeist.
Fleeist. Yeah.
Yeah, I get scared. I flee. I'm a fleeist.
Well, that kind of works out for Fleabag.
Yeah, that's true. There is a little bit of fight or flight, with the latter being the primary there.
Hot flea?
Hot flea. That could be cute. Hot flea.
Kind of works.
That.
They're both hot, so.
Yes. And they do flee at the end.
From their feelings.
Yes. Don't we all, right? What makes us human. So the show itself is called Fleabag, and it is a 2-season TV show created by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and it's based on her one-woman show of the same title. And I did not know that before doing the research.
Yeah, so I think it's basically the first season is what she covers in her show, and then I guess it went well, so they got to make it a TV show, and then she created the second season a few years later. So
wow, so how much of it is based in reality then, I guess?
I hope not a lot.
I know. I hope not either.
I think for her sake, I know. I think probably a lot of the monologues and stuff about what it's like to be a woman and things. But yeah, hopefully not a whole. I think she's just a funny, clever woman.
Because the story of the show is following this youngish, right? Early 30s, perchance? Something around there.
I don't know.
Where I put it. But this woman living in London. And she's got a complicated life.
So yeah, living in London with complicated family, romantic, and internal relationships. So complicated relationship with her family, romantic relationships, and also with herself. She, I think she has to deal with some kind of loathing, self-esteem issues, guilt. Has to kind of overcome that so she can fix her relationships with everybody else in her life.
Yeah, who's not dead, right? Because she's had several big losses, including that of her mom and her best friend.
Yep. So she's kind of a mess, but in like a really relatable way. People seem to really identify with her and her struggles. And overall, it's a very well received show. It was very popular and won a lot of awards. So people really like it and relate to her and her very kind of dry wit and the way that she engages with the audience. So something that happens in Fleabag that doesn't happen a lot is the breaking of the fourth wall. So we get her internal thoughts and her ideas. She'll kind of step back from what's happening in the show and address the camera dead on and give us a little heads up or a little thought that she's having, make a little joke.
And it's often very funny and clever. And Like, she just provides this commentary that is makes it so engaging and so fun. Like, we're in on the joke. And it is so funny. It's so funny and so hard to watch that first season. Because it's really just about her hitting rock bottom and all these things that go wrong and all these ways she self-sabotages and tries to fight back against her perceived injustices that just makes it worse and worse for her. Like stealing her godmom / new stepmom, who also doesn't have a name. I've learned her name is just Godmother, who is stealing her statue that she made, as her godmother is lined up to marry her mom's dad. Is lined up to marry Fleabag's dad after being friends with their mom, being their godmother, and then marrying her deceased friend's husband. It's so nuts. And they fight in such subtle British ways, but it's just that they're all just so angry underneath this calm pretense.
Yeah. Yeah, I watched the show back when it came out, so I think that was like 2017 and 2019. That's kind of what I remember from the first season, is it was good, but like made me upset. I really felt bad for Fleabag.
Well, she did so many bad things, but at the same time, there were so many injustices happening to her.
Yeah, that's what really pissed me off. But she showed up to her godmother's show, and she's like, "Oh, you're gonna be a waiter." Like, what was that?
Yeah, I would have just left. Like, why? I guess because they're British, they just try to power through. I would have been like, no.
What, are you paying me? No, yeah, I don't know. Like that, except that was something I was like, that's not even her from concerning her previous actions. Just the godmother sucks. I don't know.
And then she drops all the glasses in the middle of the art show. It was intense.
But yeah, so that was season 1, kind of rough, but a much more of a kind of positive outlook for season 2. So it starts and she's kind of on her way back up, and while she does that, she meets a priest. Hot Priest.
Hot Priest enters the picture. And I have watched this show as well. I watched it a few years ago, and then I rewatched it because I remembered the sexiness of Hot Priest and Fleabag, and I was like, oh, we should talk about it on the show. And as I said, this is probably one of my more favorite ships that I've thought about, that I remember, because when we talked about it in the first episode, I'm like, I feel like I remember something where I was like really a lot of pining and a lot of tension on screen, and I'm pretty sure this was it. So this is a revisiting a top one. This is for me, guys. This is for me. Based on the AO3 fanfics, this isn't for all y'all. This is for us, specifically me. And that upswing is where we pick up season 2. And
there's like a year gap, and then it kicks off.
Yeah,
back in her life.
Yeah, back in her life, and she does this thing where she like even does that fourth wall breaking, and she's like, "No, things really are good," because everybody was insisting that she was like lying about the state of her life, but she's like, "No, things are good." And that opening scene of season 2 where she does that is at an engagement dinner or some kind of celebratory engagement dinner around her dad and the godmother, in which they've invited the priest that will be officiating the wedding. And that's where the flames begin to spark and smother. What's it called? Smolder?
Smolder?
Yes, they get to get hot.
Right. So in the dinner, so it goes terribly.
It's a
I also
disaster.
remember being upset by this just because of how terrible her sister's husband is.
I hate that guy.
He's just the worst
actor, right? I've seen him before.
Oh, is he?
He's just got a very punchable face.
I know the godmother's very famous, but he just sucks. So he's sucking, but then there's Hot Priest here, and he's kind of like on Fleabag's side already. Like, he just acts like a normal person at this terrible dinner. Where she mentions in her dialogue, I guess she's trying to be normal, because apparently she hasn't seen her family like for a year. She had to take a step back from them. So she's trying to keep it like locked down. And she does one of her turning to the cameras, and she says, no one's asked me a question in 45 minutes. But then he like kind of jumps on what she's saying and goes, so what do you do? And it's just like this moment of him kind of seeing her and just treating her like a normal human.
And that is kind of the theme of the dinner, where he does connect with her. And, you know, he's also very charming and very funny.
Yes.
And very Irish. And so that's just like a total package right there. I'm in love, especially when you add in the fact that he's unattainable. Heck
I
yeah.
was gonna bring that up. How much of this ship, I'd feel, so I might be getting ahead of myself, but I think a lot of this ship is just carried on the charmingness of Andrew Scott.
For sure. Yeah.
He's just, and I've seen him in other things. I think he's in a movie. I didn't even like the movie, but I was just like, this man is so charming. So just how personable he is, and then just the unattainableness of it.
Right. And he's very casual. He's very relaxed. I think at some point during the dinner, Fleabag asked him, "Are you a real priest?" You know, and he's like, "Yeah." Because he talks about his alcoholic father and his pedo brother and all this stuff. So it's just, he's very forthcoming. And since Fleabag's life is on the up and up, it would be a pretty bad idea for her to fall for someone who's completely unavailable and inappropriate, right? Cheeky face.
Maybe not best for her journey, but also we see her make bad choices. Like, what's she gonna do? What choices she have?
She gonna do? Yeah. And so while they meet that night at dinner, the priest and Fleabag find themselves running into each other a lot. And over the course of the season, they're like hanging out, it seems, every couple scenes they're together. I think she pops up in his church while he's giving a sermon, and he causes him to stumble over his words because he sees her and he's like, ugh. He like loses his breath a little bit. And then
Gets flustered.
Yeah. Some of my favorite montages is when they're out there like he's trying on outfits to try to pick out what is the right one to wear for the wedding.
Priests have a lot of flashy robes and things that they wear.
Yeah, he says he worries he's in it just for the outfits. And I like that's just the funny kind of stuff that he says. But in hindsight, I'm like thinking about this, I'm pretty sure Catholic priests can't perform weddings outside. So
Do they have to be in a church? Yeah.
yes, actually, I'm 100% sure, because when my husband and I were looking for wedding venues, we went to this Polish Catholic, which was a church that was excommunicated from real Catholicism. And they're like, yeah, because we're not a part of the Catholic Church, we can marry gays and we can perform ceremonies outside. And so now that I remember that, I'm like, there's no way a real Catholic priest could be marrying a couple outside. But
maybe it's just ceremonial.
yeah, maybe he was just blessing them or whatever.
It's not like a mass, right? So I guess it doesn't count if it's not a
well, it
you have to have
doesn't
like
count if
a
it's
mass
not a
component.
Yeah, that's what makes it a sacrament.
Yeah.
Any hoodle.
Oh well.
It's okay.
They're not Catholic a lot out there.
We can blame Henry VIII for all this. If he hadn't separated the Church of England from the Vatican, then maybe these writers would know a little bit more. But anyways,
they needed a hot priest. They worked it in.
And they worked it in. And he was hot, and they hung out a lot, and he was charming and edgy and cool. I think there's a quote. She says, "Oh, so you're one of those cool priests." And he says, "No, I don't have friends, and I like to read." And it's just like, okay, how does that not endearing? I mean, it's a little worrisome because like you have to have some friends other than God, but it just, yeah, he was just a very endearing. And so this kind of tension builds over the season as they like hang out all the time, and she gets all these like little sassy, like always calling him father and stuff to like reiterate that they can't.
Yeah.
And it builds over the course of the season. And the climax, even though this is before anything really, really happens, I would say this is the climax where both of their passions and feelings for each other overflow from the chalices like Jesus' blood.
Communion. We feel it. You know, we can see the tension. We feel the tension. And Fleabag's upfront to us about her feelings. But we don't really know where he's at.
Right.
Although we can guess.
I mean, come on.
They spend a lot of time together. They seem to. I think this only really takes place over the course of like a week. So.
Oh, really? I thought it was like at least a few.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember how she ends up at the church this night.
She was like in the church. She had to have been trying to find him.
Yeah, she was praying or something. She was like sitting there or kneeling in the church, and then she hears a noise, and then she goes into the back area, the priest office or whatever, and he's back there drinking, which is another theme, is that he drinks a lot. The character is pretty consistently shown with a drink in his hand. But we'll get more into that later when we discuss the actual merits of this relationship other than its just sizzle factor on the little screen. But this is where it really, steaminess gets amped up a notch, and it has the infamous confession booth kneel scene.
Yes.
Which, what do you remember about this?
I remember, like, I knew about it before I watched the show. Like, people were talking about it. People were, like, writing about it. I was expected to be blown away. I had heard how hot and steamy it was. Oh, yeah. So he's been drinking. I think he gives her a drink. So they're kind of drinking together in a church. They're flirting. I think it's his idea that they go to the confessional booth and then they kind of play act a confession. So she kind of lets him in. She starts talking about her like insecurities. She says she wants someone to make all the decisions for her because she's been making the decisions in her life. And it hasn't panned out. So she just kind of wants that weight off her shoulders of someone else to kind of tell her what to do. And then she says, well, I want someone to tell me what to do. And then he goes, kneel.
Oh.
And I guess people love that.
Yeah.
So,
to me, it didn't read as like a very sexy moment because she was just like, I want someone to tell me what to do. And I'm like, but you didn't really confess anything. You didn't really say I slept with my best friend's boyfriend, leading her to accidentally kill herself. You know, like that was what I was waiting for her to say, something like that, and for him to be like, I accept you still.
yeah, she just owned up to that it was her sister's miscarriage at the dinner and that she was kind of trying to like protect her.
Yeah.
Or try to get her to leave to go to the doctor. Yeah, I think this like speech she gives about wanting no choices or what someone else to give the choices resonates with people. Does not resonate with me.
No, not really.
Don't tell me what to do.
Yeah, I mean that if you want that, that's like the life of a child. Like you don't want to be a child forever. I've seen the opposite side. It's not great. Actually, you do want some autonomy. That's
yeah.
please.
Well, and even she doesn't. Yeah, she wants autonomy too. So she goes on a date with somebody else after this who does kind of like tell her what to do. She's like, no, I'm going to do what I want to do.
Yeah,
anyway.
she says, don't eat that. She's like, I'm
going to eat it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was it? Is he the hot chauvinist or something like that? Hot misogynist? All these dudes are hot, apparently, in Fleabag's circle.
Yeah.
But so they do the confession, and it's her letting down her walls and actually being open with him because she's held him at an arm's length throughout the duration of their friendship up until this point. She like does her thing where she breaks the fourth wall and talks to us directly. And he's like, what are you doing? Like he notices that she like shuts down and like retreats within herself. So then we can only assume we're also in herself as well. But that leads to some interesting things that happen with that fourth wall breakage during the relationship. But anyway, so he tells her to kneel. We didn't even get to the...
Yeah, we didn't even get to...
Yeah. So he tells her to kneel, and then all of a sudden...
she does.
The curtain wheels back, and there he is. And I'm like, is he going to whip his dick out? And like, why is he telling her to kneel? That's what I was very confused about what was going to happen next. I'm like, why else is this happening? But then he kneels, and then they make out, and then they stand up, which just seems like a lot of extra exercise to get to this end point. So they're making out, bouncing around the church confessional booth to pews, whatever. And then a portrait of Jesus falls off the wall. And then the guy's
she's like going for his pants. Like they're getting serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she's wanted to, right? This is what she wanted. And while she didn't admit it, she made up her mind a long time ago. And we'll get to that in a second too. But bouncing around, and the picture falls down, and he walks away shaking his head. And he was like, no, we can't do this. We can't do this. So that's when she goes.
Because famously, priests have taken a vow of chastity.
Yes, they have to be celibate.
Right.
Comes with the territory.
So what's he going to do? Anyway, so they're going to keep hanging out.
Yeah, right, naturally. No, I think they don't see each other after this. I remember, I just rewatched these episodes last weekend. So I remember the chain of events here. So then she goes on the date with the hot misogynist, and she's like, he's pretty cool. He's not great, but whatever. She makes another plan to see him at her house, and she's doing her whole flirtation from the first season where she invites them over late at night and she just answers the door in a coat, but then only underwear underneath and like baby oil and all that whole song and dance. And so she's getting ready to meet the hot misogynist, and then the doorbell rings and she flings the door open, and who is it? Hot Priest, who got her address from her sister for some reason and came over in the middle of the night. So there she is, like, in her knickers, to borrow a British word, with a coat over it. And so there's like some funny dialogue like, oh, are you going somewhere? And she's like, no. And he's like, are you going to take off your coat? She's like, no. And then they're like sitting there trying to talk about all these big feelings they have for each other. And then there's a knock at the door, and it's the hot misogynist being like, hey, can I come in? Like, let me in. I'm here to fuck. And then she's like, oh God, and then she has to send him away. And that's just, the situational stuff that makes the show so funny. But then they get back to being serious, and that's when they decide that they're just going to go for it.
Yeah.
One night.
Yep. Because he's told her before, I'm not sleeping with you. This is the line I'm going to cross. And then he changes his mind.
Yep. He comes in and he's like, we're going to have sex, aren't we? And she just nods her head. And then they go after it. And then in kind of like a hint of what we, the viewers, are in her head, when we get a little snippet of them in bed together, and she pushes the camera down. Like, this isn't for us, or like we don't get to see this piece.
Yeah. When like previous hookups she's been like talking to us through it.
Right.
Like, yeah, she's not been shy in the past, but this one we don't get to see.
Oh, and we skipped the part where they went to the Quaker meeting.
Yeah, they also go to a Quaker church. That's only in here because when I was writing the notes, I was just writing down only what I remembered from watching the show years ago. And it was just terrible dinner with the miscarriage stuff, confessional scene, and then the time they went to a Quaker church. For some reason, the Quaker church got me. I think it's because everything I learn about Quakers, they just seem cool to me. So I'm always just like, oh, nice. They seem nice.
Well, that's what I don't remember that from my first watch through. I didn't put it together, but I did see recently about how the Quakers were doing something cool. And so I like searched them up and was reading about them. And then when I rewatched it for the episode today, they're in that circle silently, and I'm like, I know exactly what's happening now, before they had to explain it.
Every time I learn about them, like, they seem like solid religion.
No, they're pretty
chill.
solid. Yeah, they call everybody friends or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
friends.
That was part of the relationship development between Fleabag and Hot Priest, is that they also debate like philosophy and religion. So she's the atheist and he's the religious, and she challenges his beliefs and all this kind of stuff. So
He reads the Bible just to see what's up, I guess.
Yeah, so they're kind of, they got that challenge adversarial piece with each other, and it adds to the tension there.
And in the church, that's where well, you stand up if you feel the need to say something.
If the Holy Spirit moves you to speak.
Yeah, and she's just like, oh no, what am I doing? As she stands up, and she says that I worry I wouldn't be as much of a feminist if I had bigger tits. And that just stuck with me. I'm like, while I was remembering this, I was like, oh yeah. With the feminist and bigger, I couldn't remember if it was like she said it here or like her sister had said it. I just remembered that line from this show.
Oh yeah. Well, she talks about her sister's tits in the first season when they go to the feminist lectures that their dad bought them after their mom died. He gets them passes to go see them because he doesn't know how to be a mom.
Yeah.
But okay, we're all over the place.
Yeah. So we're just talking about parts of the show we like.
Yep. And this is another one, right? This is the big one, because as the tension's built, they finally crossed that line. They've passed the point of no return. And the next day is her dad's wedding to the godmother. So they have to see each other again the very next day. And what are they doing? They're like making out in the garden when people can't see them and stuff. And they're trying to figure out what's going to happen next. And Fleabag says something along the lines of, you're having to decide between me and God. And while they're being cute and flirty and acting like a high school couple, and then the priest gives this huge moving homily about what it means to be in love. And it's obvious he's talking to good old Fleabag right there. At the end, the day kind of winds down and we get this last moment on a bus bench when they're leaving the wedding party to go on their separate ways, right?
Yeah,
so,
they're just going home, I guess.
yeah, so the day's over, they're going home, Fleabag's sitting on the bench, and then the priest shows up, and that's basically where they officially decide to go their separate ways. Because he comes in, he's all like wanting to talk, and then Fleabag says, it's God, isn't it? So in the end, he's decided to stay true to his holy orders, and he's not going to pursue a relationship with her. They're not going to go any further than they've been. And we get the very famous line from the show where Fleabag confesses her love for him, and his response, it'll pass.
It'll pass.
Oh.
Ooh, it's brutal.
Yeah, but it's so romantic too. And like,
but it's, it'll pass. I mean, what's he,
what are they supposed to do?
Yeah.
And she says, I love you a few more times, and then he does say it eventually as well.
They acknowledge that they had feelings for each other. It was real, but it's just, it wasn't going to work out. Just, she's kind of dealing with her own stuff still. She's got to grow. He's got his own stuff. Plus he's a priest. So yeah, it's just.
Right. Because that's why he wouldn't sleep with her earlier. Because she says all kinds of stuff about how priests don't burst into flames if they have sex. Like, priests do have sex. And he was like, but this is different because if I have sex with you, I'm going to fall in love with you. And sure enough, that's what happened. But not enough to turn him away from the love of God. And as he walks away for the last time, he says, stay out of my church. Don't ever come around again here, you see? And then Fleabag is very chill about this whole thing. She's very mature. Gets up, decides to walk home, and tells us, the viewer, to stay behind. She's like, I don't need you to come with me. And she's off to get better, live her better life. And it's all very
I'm leaving
inspiring.
that potentially toxic relationship behind. I'm leaving this toxic relationship behind. I'm going to be present in my life from now on.
And so it's very uplifting. And it's a very good little love story.
Mm-hmm. And it is a love story. She says that in the first episode. This is a love story.
Oh, I didn't even catch that.
Yeah. I think it's like while her nose is bleeding after she gets hit by...
Oh, her brother-in-law?
Yeah. It's like during the fight with her brother-in-law.
So that's kind of the highlight of their story there. I'm sure there's a lot of moments of tension and really good quips that we've missed in the process.
Oh, yeah.
But let's get into more of the ship side of things. So first we talked about how they met, but we never decided if it was a meet cute or get the boot. So that dinner. Right. Oof. I mean,
it's a rough watch.
It is. It's hard to watch.
Yeah. The family. Oh, that your dad gives her a birthday present and then she feels pressured to open it in front of people and it's like a visit to a counselor.
Yeah, it's a certificate for a free counseling session.
Yeah, I thought it was just going to be money. Yeah.
Yeah, and she has to open that in front of everybody.
And the priest is like, oh, I'd love that.
Yeah. And so he's
no one gives me presents.
Yeah, he's very enlightened, right?
Yeah.
And so her family's just awful to her. And she's, but the priest is still, like you said, on her side. He's throwing her some really spicy looks. I have a screenshot in the notes, and I'm like, I wish somebody looked at me that way.
Well, you got to get that jumpsuit.
Oh,
She's wearing that to a family dinner.
Yeah, I know.
That's great, but that's,
that is.
Maybe not appropriate.
I feel as if the priest somebody comments on it at some point. I think it might even be her brother-in-law. Somebody comments on her outfit, but she did look really good in it.
Yeah.
That's a very nice jumpsuit. And it showed her growth because she was trying to help her sister, and then they were all like, oh, you're still trying to have your moment, blah, 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 blah.
Typical Fleabag. Yeah, make everything about her.
So while the chemistry was certainly there for Fleabag and Hot Priest, just all the things that happened, the miscarriage, the getting punched, like all of this, the drama of it, it makes me say, get the boot. I mean, their part was the meet cute, but the whole situation is not.
Yeah, the whole scene is rough, but yeah, I mean, they're good together, and you can kind of immediately see that there's something there. They kind of share a cigarette outside, but yeah. What is he? He says, fuck you, and then like smiles at her.
Yeah. Oh.
It's just, you can tell. Yeah. Yeah. He's very charming. You can tell that there's something going on.
This was the igniting moment, but that leads us to the question. This is where we'll get into like really digging into the ship. Was this real love, or was this just more Fleabag self-sabotage, right? Because that's what the fans are constantly discussing in the forums online is, what did they really feel for each other? Were they actually good together, or was this just another manifestation of their past trauma? Like those kind of things. I mean, from a viewer's perspective, it sizzled on the screen. I loved it. I mean, who doesn't like a love story where you like it's doomed from the beginning?
Yeah. Well, like forbidden love, that's like hot always. Like, people are always going to be into that.
Oh yeah. This is the first time that you see a sexy priest or nun. Like, come on. Spirit Halloween has that on lockdown. Every Halloween, every October.
Yeah. Well, but also not even just hot, but like he sees her. They have like a connection. They both kind of meet each other where they are, which is kind of messed up.
They're both very damaged. Well, that sounds bad, but they both are carrying a lot of trauma. And the fact that he sees her, everybody else, I think, just sees her actions, right? And that's why they're basing all of these horrible things that they do and say to her. They've just seen how she's acted in the past. But he really sees her for who she is. And that's when I think one of the more significant moments of why I feel that they had more of a genuine, serious relationship is when he calls her out for those breaking the fourth wall moments, right? Where she turns and talks to us. And he's like, what are you doing? Where do you go?
He's the only character to, acknowledge that she just is, the interpretation seems to be kind of dissociating from her life or from these, like, events where she steps back and, kind of talks to her imaginary friend as a way to, like, distance herself from what's happening.
Right.
And he actually catches it, and he looks in the camera at one point.
It's a jump scare.
It does. He looks in the camera and goes, ah! I remember, like, literally, like, being shook. Like, I was like, oh, what?
Yeah.
It's such a surprise.
Yeah, he sees where she's staring off and then turns and looks
at the camera. I felt seen. I was like, oh, my
God. He sees me. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, my God, yeah.
Everything about the show is so good. Phoebe Bridger Willer, whatever her name is, genius. Why has she done anything else since then?
Oh yeah, she's like in Hollywood now. Well, I think she wrote, what was that one movie recently with the spiders? Marvel with the spiders, Spider Lady, something like that.
I don't want her writing Marvel. It
wasn't really well received. I think she worked on that. She's writing and executive producing Tomb Raider TV on Amazon Prime.
Are you fucking kidding me? Like, that's such a joke. Oh my God, such a waste of potential. She did not say it'll pass to her bad priest. She is fully indulging in the toxic relationships of Hollywood.
Probably making tons of cash, though.
I know. But don't deny us more Fleabag. Or maybe she just feels so concerned that she won't be able to replicate the magic here. Yeah. Anyways, that piece...
She worked on Killing Eve. People liked that.
But that piece where he looked at the camera, that was magic. That was like one of the top moments for me as well. Like you said, you jump out of your skin.
Yeah, I remember being, like literally like almost feeling it. Like, oh, was it?
Right.
So surprised.
So he sees her. He acknowledges her more than the other people in her life. Mm-hmm. The other thing that you see a lot is like he helped her grow as she was healing and improving after this really bad series of events that happened pre and during the first season. You see her pursuing shallow, unattainable, like inappropriate relationships that are mostly just focused on hooking up. She's got this same boyfriend that's in and out of her life, but then she just sleeps with the guy with the weird teeth, and like all this other stuff is going on. And even she talks about the hot misogynist who is apparently a very good lay. She's like, I don't even want to see him. Like, I want to see the priest. Like, that's the only guy I want to be with right now. And that's a very big shift of her to be open to that kind of relationship. So, I mean, that's what I think is that's a pretty nice thing, right? And then I saw pointed out on Reddit, because there was a lot of discussion. If you put in priest on our Fleabag, lots comes up. Something that I think pointed to the relationship being a little bit more legitimate, or like the feelings being real, was pointed out by user Mystic Monkey 321. So if Mystic Monkey, if you're out there, we're quoting you. They said they called back to Fleabag's dad, telling Fleabag, "I think you know how to love better than any of us, and that's why you find it all so painful." And they pointed out that this adds to this perspective that it's like a bigger love, because she let go of the priest, who she truly loves, because she knew it was selfish of her to keep him, and it would eventually go downhill, and it would pull him away from the life that he had found to be so enriching and so peaceful. Because obviously, if he was going to stay with her, even if he didn't officially leave the church, it was going to pull him away from that life and his
and it
role.
was going to sit on him. Like, he'd feel guilty, could he accept that, with what he's doing?
Right. And that was a lot of people critiquing everybody's motivations in those last scenes, from she wouldn't commit to him, he wouldn't commit to her, like all of these things. But I thought this was like a more sweeter interpretation and fit into that line that her dad shared with her about how she loves deeper than everybody else in the family. She loves better. So I thought that was kind of sweet. And that's the one that I'm choosing to go with.
Right. So, I mean, that was kind of, so you're not a critic, but there are some critics out there, some discussion of, did they like each other really? Was it, or was it good? Were they good for each other?
Were they good for each other? Was it a meaningful relationship, or was it all built on lust and like the forbidden fruit?
So, what the people are saying, that the priest, he struggles, obviously, he's a priest. So just being with Fleabag, he took vows, is breaking his vows. So it's kind of, he has to choose. They have whole discussions about it, God versus Fleabag. He feels like he can't have both. Well, he can't, though, to be a priest.
No, and that's what people are like, well, why didn't he just become a pastor or join the Church of England or something?
I thought, was it like, why did he convert to Anglican or whatever? Like, you can't just do that.
Yeah, it's not that
the
simple.
Catholic priest. That's a whole thing. You got to go to school.
You got to go, like, I think it's like 8 years or some shit. It's a ridiculous amount of time. And more than just an investment of time, it's an identity, right?
Yeah.
And like, let's be real. Everybody's felt the infatuation phase of a relationship, right? And it doesn't always shake out so great. So how are you going to trade who you are and what you've done for the better part of a decade for a relationship that you don't know if it's actually going to work out, if it's going to shake out? Because there's still so much that they didn't know about each other.
Right. Yeah, and it's not his job, it's his whole life. Like, it would really ruin his whole life. It's everything that, you do.
His role in
it's
the
not
community.
even just switching a job. It's your whole community. Yeah, it's everything you've given your life to. So, yeah, I mean, how can you expect him to give that up? Yeah, for a brand new relationship, with
somebody who hasn't had the best track record of being entirely dependable either,
Yeah.
I mean, this led me down the rabbit hole of being like, I don't think it's very fair for the Catholic Church to expect its members or its leaders or whatever to be celibate. I feel like, that's puts people into really hard positions. And I doubt
it's like nobody else does it.
Right. Well, I know you could be a deacon, but I don't know if you can like go step down, right? You step down from a priest to a deacon. I don't think deacon requires as much formal training. But I know deacons can be married.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd probably just have to step out. Yeah, like quit completely.
So that would be a more interesting train of thought to pull. I don't know enough about the Catholic Church anymore. He'd also lose his house, right? Because the church is his home. I remember that. We all had to pay for the house of the priest.
Yes, they normally, I think, live on site.
Right. A lot of people wanted them to get together in the end, right? What I wanted them to throw caution to the wind and run off together into the sunset. But, there's a lot of really good reasons for them not to. And so some people say, we're looking at it from a more positive intent perspective. Like, she was letting him go because she loved him. He was more committed to his faith and his role in the church. There was a lot of discussion around the fact that this was maybe the self-sabotage that Fleabag was known for, just in a different way.
Almost in a way, yeah, that's like taking him down with her. It's one thing to like pine after someone you know you can never get, because it's like that's common. It's like a safe way to have big feelings, and maybe that's what she needs instead of engaging with these hookups with these not good guys. Yeah, instead she needs to put that energy to one guy who can't return the feelings.
Yeah.
And I think they're generally friends. They clearly have chemistry and like each other as a person. And there was some people didn't like that they almost think he's coming from almost like a position of power where she's looking for advice and like comfort.
He's taking advantage.
Then he's making it, because he makes the first move, like in the confessional. They're just kind of hanging out, but that he's the one who kisses her. So, and
to be fair, it was a different time where they were hanging out that she brought up that priests can have sex. So I think it was pretty much they decided that there was a mutual attraction, but they weren't going to do anything about it.
They're just going to pretend.
Yeah, that's when he says that if they did that, he'd fall in love with her. So there was, that was coming. But I don't buy that he took advantage of her, because she knew from the jump that she was going to sleep with this man. When she goes to that birthday counseling session, she talks about, not knowing what to do. And then the counselor's like, you know what you're going to do. And she's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And she's like, you know what you're going to do. And I feel like that's echoed later in the season 2 with her and the hot priest, where he was like, we're going to have sex. And she's like, yes. Because that's what she's wanted this whole time. So she was definitely a willing participant in my perspective.
Yeah, I think people are hung up on like that he is a priest. So he would be like the leader. He's like the leader of the flock. But like he's not her priest. She's not religious.
She really doesn't believe in any of that stuff.
Yeah,
so.
This is just his job. So yeah, he doesn't. That I didn't see. I was like, I kind of feel like you're projecting your relationships with like spiritual leaders onto this, whereas I think maybe Fleabag doesn't see it like that. If anything, it's kind of like a kinky thing for her.
Right. She thinks it's like a big conquest, which is another kind of criticism, is like, does she actually like him, or did she just like the idea that she could be so hot that she could seduce a priest and have him betray everything that he holds holy? Which is a pretty pessimistic view of the Fleabag character and all the growth that she's had. And I just didn't buy that.
No, that I don't. But I think they generally liked each other. Yeah, I don't think it was. Maybe the forbiddenness made it hotter for both, not even just Fleabag. But I don't think she just wanted to bang him because he was a priest.
Yeah, no, I don't get that either, because there were so many other dudes that crossed her path that she has the prowess to sleep with. And maybe it was the other pieces that made it develop over time, right? Because they weren't able to just jump each other's bones right off the bat is what let her get the emotional connection. So maybe that's some of the pieces she did learn from it. But yeah, that piece of her criticism of her being still self-sabotaging, still not letting the relationship develop, is also the same thing was put on the priest himself, saying that he was staying in his safe zone. He was staying in patterns that were familiar to him as well. And this was as put by Small Wonder 21, also on Reddit, that said that God is safe and warm and predictable. Choosing Fleabag means he has to face the outside world, himself, his family, sobriety, and the possibility of rejection. They said overall it didn't affect their take of him. They didn't judge him as a person, but they're saying that he was rejecting the feelings in the relationship as well, because he was choosing the safe path for himself. He was falling back on those familiar patterns, and also afraid, right? Because Fleabag that's why she self-sabotages. And they were saying he was doing kind of the same thing. So I definitely believe that these two are cut from the same cloth, that they're both running from their own demons, which Fleabag is her poor choices and the priest is foxes, which, just kidding, are analogies for demons and things that are following
his temptation, I think, or something. Yeah, his doubt, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, doubt. I like that. Not just the movie with Meryl Streep and Amy Adams, but yeah.
Because in the end, she points the fox his way. So like he's still going to be followed by his doubt. He hasn't dealt with it. So what I've what I remember from like when this series first came out, I was listening to a podcast and they talked about it, and someone said that at the end of the season, like Fleabag's on the way up. She's hit rock bottom. She's on the way up. The priest, he's like still on the way down. Like he still has work to do. Maybe this is rock bottom, where he kind of almost blows up his whole life. I was assuming he's devout. Like he took these vows, he knew what he was getting into, and he breaks them. This is the issue I have with this relationship.
Yeah, go tell me.
Yeah, you're a priest. Come on, you knew what you were getting into. Well, I have very little sympathy for people who get into problems because they can't keep it in their pants. Just keep it in your pants.
And that's why I was like, Fleabag, I don't think the temptation, like the forbidden fruit piece might have factored in for her, but that can't have factored in for the priest, because when you go into the priesthood, you already know all these ladies exist. Like hot ladies exist. You don't go in thinking you're never going to see a hot lady again.
Yeah.
I think he was fully anticipating it. Maybe he wasn't anticipating a hot lady who was as funny and charming and interesting, right?
Yeah.
Somebody he wanted to fix, right? Mm-hmm. That's an interesting take from the podcast too. You'll have to see if you can remember which podcast it was. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was so he literally is afraid of foxes and he's being followed by them. Like that's a plot point. And in the end, a fox shows up and she said he went that way and the fox follows him. And she doesn't. And I've seen that in some of the Reddit discourse as well, where they were saying like she wasn't going to be a fox following him anymore. She was going to at least let that piece go. One less thing haunting him. But that's, if the foxes are following him, he still hasn't resolved all his issues yet. And she doesn't need that dead weight.
She's on the way up. Yeah, she's fixing herself. So yeah, that's her issues, right? Her like dissociation.
Right. And she leaves
at
us
the end
behind.
of the season, she leaves us behind. She's waved. She says, "You stay, goodbye." But whereas he's still being followed. So like he still has to address his issues. Whereas she's getting
Phoebe
better.
Waller-Bridge, I forget her last name. She should make a season about the priest. Everybody would watch that because we all love the actor, right? Andrew, what's his name? Andrew Scott.
Andrew Scott.
But no, I think that's like
right.
That's a really good way to leave it, right? And a good way to wrap up their relationship. And I like that. Oh, that's a good place to put a pin in it. Fleabag.
Yeah.
Oh, I will say there's not a lot of fan fiction on this couple to find an interesting one. There was less than 300 with this slash fiction. And a lot of it is just imagining what would have happened if they got together, because that's what we all wanted to see. Anything as far as trends, the only kind of ones that were interested was like the AU crossovers kind of stuff. I think one of the best, most surprising ones was the Good Omens Fleabag crossover, where Crowley is literally the devil, visits the guinea pig cafe, which is the cafe that Fleabag owns that we didn't talk about at all. But they run into each other and I'm assuming have a conversation about their unrequited or unattainable love interest with holier men, right? Because Crowley is in love with an angel.
Aziraphale.
God, when we do that ship, I'm never going to be able to pronounce that.
I was going to say we have to. This is a big ship. But yeah, browsing through AO3 and Tumblr, I saw like multiple different fics and stuff that were, crossover specifically with Good Omens. I guess they're both in London, so they ran.
There you go. I mean, it's not that big of an island.
No. So yeah, we'll have to do that one day. I think
it's definitely a top one.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have to add it. Once we get this down pat.
It's wrapping up. They're doing a third. I think they're doing a third movie or something instead of a season.
Oh, so we'll have to try to
they might end up together and then they won't apply.
Well, that's fine. Well, we'll do it before in preparation.
Yeah.
But yeah, as we've been trying to save some of the bigger ships for when we get a little bit more practice, and we're going to do more of these just like for fun ones, the ones that are personal interest at the top.
Yeah.
So bear with us. We will talk about
we'll get to them
Hermione or whatever later. Which that one came up a lot when you typed in Fleabag for some reason. Not that this was in the title. It wasn't about Fleabag. It just had Fleabag in the title quite a few times. For some reason. Maybe that's just because it's a British term. I don't know.
Maybe.
So if we're going to give this couple a one true pairing score, what would your score be?
Right. I feel like I didn't like my last rating. I was like, I think I'm losing the I'm losing the idea here of what these one true pairing scores are. So I wrote down, what does it need to be for it to be a true pairing? So I have 3 things. And is, do I see it? So do I see it in the media?
Okay.
So do I agree? Do I want to see it? So is it something I want to see more of? And also just, is it hot? So do I see it? Yeah, obviously.
Yes.
Do I want to see it? I don't think so. I don't think it's good for them. You know, I think in the end, when they split up, that was how it should have gone. And then is it hot? Yes. So how I'm going to rank this? So not like the highest of scores, because in the end, I don't think I actually shipped them together. I want them to kind of go their own ways and continue their growth. But because there was feelings there, maybe like a 1 out of 5 guinea pigs.
Oh, I was going to do guinea pigs. Oh, no. You gave him 1 out of 5?
Maybe 1. I was trying to think. Well, because right, 1-2 pairing. Do I believe in them together?
Are they soulmates, right?
Yeah.
Do you think
Am
they're
I
soulmates?
going to be? Yeah. Did I feel the desire to read fan fiction where they were together? Not really. I kind of think it's what happened in the show is what should have happened.
I mean, that's what should have happened. But I do want to read fan fiction of them together more.
Okay.
Maybe even if it's for a brief period. Like I went to watch them scratch that itch, right? And I think that's what all the fan fiction's about as well.
I feel like a little bit of wanting to scratch your own itch with Andrew Scott.
Oh yeah, well that too. But like,
it's just wish fulfillment because you like Andrew Scott.
who doesn't love that, like, eggs of a relationship that cannot be? The best love stories are the ones that don't have happy endings, because there is no happy endings. You just get old and fat and tired of each other. So that's why I give them 7 out of 10 nude sculptures that don't have any heads or arms, which is the best I could think of off the fly because you took guinea pigs. Because
I gotta do guinea pig. Love guinea pig.
I know you have paintings of guinea pigs on your wall behind you.
R.I.P.
Yeah, because it's everything that I want out of a fictional romance. It like makes you feel something. It's got the longing, the pining, and just the heartbreak, man. Do they really belong together? I don't know. I think they're two people who had a genuine connection, and the timing was bad. Maybe they'll come back together in the future. I saw that a lot in the fanfics. It was like 5 years after the series, that maybe he's left the priesthood on his own. Maybe.
Yeah, I think that probably takes time, some acceptance. And
right. Those foxes finally caught up to him, and he dealt with them, and then they land together. Kind of like how she originally ran into the sexual predator banker who ended up just being misunderstood, and they made a friendship in the end. I thought that was cute. And I think that's important for us as a people to remember that just because people have been bad in the past are not all the bad forever. I don't know. That was me trying to talk weird commentary. But anyways, they could maybe come back together after they...
Maybe. I think, he needs to leave. If he's going to leave the priesthood, it has to be for him and not for her.
For her,
Otherwise,
right.
that's too much pressure. That's too much on her.
Right. And I mean, like, what is a relationship, right? This us just going to end up being a relationship someday. So I gave them the high score because it was everything I want to see in an on-screen romance, down to the heartbreak at the end. Because now in both of their minds, the relationship would have been perfect because it never happened.
Yeah. Sometimes that's what you need. Yeah, you can't, if you let it fizzle out, it'll just kind of like taint the rest of it.
Yeah, right? That's more beautiful because it's never happened.
Yep.
And so that's why I gave it such a high score. That's what I like. Is when
like the sad ones.
The sad ones. Yep. If only Christine had stayed in that fucking dungeon. No, just kidding.
Well, that's gotta work because that's sad for them when they don't end up together. So
yeah,
if you're shipping her with
exactly
the Phantom.
Okay, that's another one we'll have to cover soon.
Yeah,
because it was confirmed, right? Canon that they had one night together that created a child. Which was another fanfic theme, was that Fleabag was pregnant. I saw that a handful of times.
I saw that. It was something like, well, the Catholics don't believe in contraception, so sex is a bigger deal to him. And it's like, I'm pretty sure Fleabag's got a handhold.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't think we need to worry about that.
Like the priest is probably not carrying around condoms, but no. I'm sure she has many of options. Okay, on that note.
Anyway.
That's where the true romance.
Point. Yeah.
True love is having a plan for contraceptive.
Yep. If you have any other ideas, any couples we should cover, you can, I guess, reach us at the text number in the description.
Yes, we need to set up an email. But honestly, send us your angsty couples because we're starting to actually watch the content and consume it as opposed to just read about it. So, like, I need some, like, hot and steamy stuff to be watching during nap time.
I know, we need to do some research. I don't think we have a next one planned. So
Uh-oh. Yep.
Figure out what's out there.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us. It was all a lot of fun. We hope you had some too. And until next time, remember, ship happens!